Hello and welcome back to Solid. My name is Jake. Thank you guys very much for joining me today on what is it? Tuesday, June 4th. Just about 1:30 p.m. For day what is it? Day 2, day 3? I don't know. Another day for this postseason week for the Battlehawks. One thing right off the bat, I did that thing how you know how you get like a little crink in your neck and like it hurts to like turn your head. I sneezed in I sneezed in the shower, and I have that. So I'm having a really tough go of things right now. If you or if anybody you know has any kind of remedy for this, please reach out and let me know because I'm in hell. I'm in absolute hell. It's not one of the things that you can just sleep off. We've all had this thing, and it is an incredible amount of pain constantly. So that's where I'm at. But listen, I'm gonna that hurt to do to shrug like that. I'm gonna power through it. I'm gonna power through it. Today we're doing like a little end of the season report card kind of a thing, going through the numbers for the Battlehawks for the entirety of the season. I did this as like a midway point after week 5. Gonna go back and do it now that we have an entire season to look at, like the total offense and just some offensive numbers, some things that kind of stand out and how they make sense for what we've seen for this entire season. Just telling you right now, I'm going to be reading a lot of numbers and stats and stuff like that. I'm gonna do my best to explain what they mean. But if you don't like hearing somebody read numbers, I know I don't like doing that because a lot of people are bad at it. I'm not great at it, but I'm fine at it. I'm good enough at it. But if you don't like listening to numbers, you probably don't have to listen or watch this one. You probably, if it ain't your cup of tea, then it ain't your cup of tea. I ain't going to blame you. But I'm still going to do it anyway because I know some people do like this. Again, I mentioned reading or not reading, listening or watching this. You have both options on Spotify. It's at Solid. If you don't want to listen, you want to watch my stupid face. It's on YouTube at Solid Pod. I I don't have the mental, physical capacity to like share my screen with what I'm doing here, which I understand would make this a lot more entertaining. I don't know why I'm downplaying my own show, but I don't edit anything. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that in. But on that same note, you're not going to be able to see the numbers that I'm reading. So I'm just gonna hop into it. Just gonna hop into it here. Enough dilly dallying and yanking your dicks. Okay. So first off, we're going to go through what the Battlehawks did as a team, and then compare them to how they did against the rest of the league. On offense, total number of offensive yards was 2,721, as opposed to their defense only allowed 2,598. I say only; it's pretty close right there. Only what is that? Probably about a 130 yard difference, give or take a few. Just basic math that I'm not good at. They ran 543 plays. So that means they had an average gain of 5 yards per play. You'll take that. Total rushing yards, 977. That's going to put them up near the top of the league when we do get to that. They had 216 rushing attempts. That's an average of 4.5 yards per rush. I should say these numbers that I'm reading are all coming from the UFL's website. So if you have a problem with it, bring it up with them. Don't bring it up with me. Or bring it up with me and I'll bring it up with them. No, just bring it up with them. Let's not do a middleman thing. 14 rushing touchdowns. Passing yards, Battlehawks had 1,744 passing yards off of 191 completions and 305 attempts. That's a completion percentage for the season of 63%. The average yards per attempt was 5.7. Average per completion is 9.1. I don't know why people actually care or would track the average per attempt because it's not an important number. They had 16 passing touchdowns on the season. So if you're counting, that is 30 touchdowns overall, 14 rushing and 16 passing. Total points, they had 260 total points this season off of those 30 touchdowns. That was 29 offensive touchdowns and 1 defensive touchdown. That is the defense allowed 202 total points. So the Battlehawks did have a point differential of positive 58. Which is what you like to see. Andre Schmidt was 19 for 21 on field goals. He was the kicker. One of the only teams, I say one of the only teams, probably about half the teams use multiple kickers throughout the season. Some of them were forced to. Some of them just had real shitty guys. But he was 19 for 21. They were they had 5 the 1-point attempts, 9 2-point attempts, and 0 3-point attempts for the extra points. They were 40 for 117 for third down conversions. That's a 34% third down conversion rate on offense. That's not good, especially given what the defense did, where they allowed 49 for 120, which is closer to average. That's a 40. The defense allowed 41% third down conversions. Not good for the offense. Not good at all, really. Fourth down conversions, they were 12 for 18. That's 67%, whereas the defense only allowed 8 for 16, which is a clean 50%. So at least the team's converting on or fourth downs sometimes. I know a lot of those were red zone fourth downs that they didn't turn into touchdowns, which sucks. Do we care about the possessions, number of possessions? They had 106 possessions, whereas they only had 101 possessions against them. I don't care. You can care about that if you want to. I'm not going to be mad. They scored on 45% of their drives, whereas the defense only allowed 34 scoring drives. So offense scored on 45% of their drives. The defense only allowed scores on 34% of the drives. That's why it's a good defense. Offense had 23 and outs of the 106 possessions. That's about 19% of their possessions are 3 and outs, whereas the defense had 23 3 and outs, which was they had 3 and outs on 23% of their of the possessions that were on the field. Offense had 5 75-yard drives, and their average starting position was on their own 44, which is really good. That's a really starting that close. I mean, Darius Shepard is so vital to getting drives starting well and scoring points, man. He's such a good person to have start off drives. Whereas against the Battlehawks, teams were starting on their own 36, so it's an 8-yard difference there. The defense forced 13 turnovers. That's 9 interceptions and 5 fumble recoveries. Don't know why that number ends up being 13. They blocked 4 kicks. Now they only did have 20 points scored off of their turnovers, which is bad. It's really bad, and I'll get to that. Where they against them. On all the turnovers, so the offense turned the ball over 11 times. That's 7 interceptions, 4 fumbles that were recovered by the other team, and other teams scored 61 points off of turnovers, which is one of the higher numbers in the league. But yeah, the offense only scoring points off of 20 points off of turnovers is not good. AJ was sacked 19 times. Sorry. AJ was sacked 22 times. The defense got 19 sacks, which is, I believe, higher than last year, which is good. I remember last year the defense did not get near as many sacks as it seemed like they should have. A lot of pressures, but whatever. Defense also had 45 tackles for a loss. And the Battlehawks never did one of the 4th and 15 or 4th and 20 plays, or 4th and 12. I can't remember what the fuck it is. I'm overcussing. I can't remember what it is. The alternative kickoff, but the Battlehawks never did it. Okay, so that is the Battlehawks numbers in a vacuum by themselves. Okay, now here is where they compare to the rest of the league. Total yardage on offense. I said the Battlehawks got 2,721 total yards on offense. That actually puts them at 6th. There are only 2 teams that had fewer total yards on offense, which is the Houston Roughnecks and the Memphis Showboats, the teams that were the 2 last place teams in the league. Yeah, the Battlehawks had 2,721, whereas Birmingham Stallions, we know they're a wagon, 3,475. As far as rushing yards go, the Battlehawks were third in the UFL. With that 977 rushing yards they had, Birmingham Stallions had 1,347. Michigan Panthers had 1,253. And then there's a big drop to the Battlehawks, 977. Right below the Battlehawks is the Brahmas with 962. Last place, just to put it into like the difference between, or the difference from first place to third place. Hell, the difference from second place to third place is the same number, is just about the same like difference as third place to last place. So from second place, 1,253 to 977, where the Battlehawks are. In last place, the Memphis Showboats had 652. So it's about a 300-yard difference from second place to third place, and it's about a 300-yard difference from third place to eighth place. So it's the two teams that are rushing the ball the most are doing they've kind of stood apart. There's a big delta there. The passing yards, like I said, the Battlehawks have 1,744 passing yards. They are in seventh place. The only team worse than them with passing yards is the Memphis Showboats with 1,651. Arlington Renegades, that team, 2,277 passing yards. They're in first place. So there's every team is relatively close, and the differences between each place is kind of equal there. But for the Battlehawks to be that low on passing yards is kind of startling, given the weapons that they have. The running game really did come alive this year. But to put it all in total, the yards per game, the Battlehawks averaged 272.1 yards per game. That puts them at sixth in the entire league. Again, Memphis Showboats, team that absolutely sucked butts the entire season, 230.3 yards per game, and the Birmingham Stallions in first place at 347.5 yards per game. Now, here's the weird thing, though. Although the Battlehawks are, in sixth place for yards per game, third place for rushing yards, almost last place for passing yards, points for the 260 points that this offense scored puts them in second place in the entire league. Puts them in second place for the entire league, 260. First place is the Birmingham Stallions with 265. Almost were able to edge them out. If AJ wouldn't have thrown that interception in the red zone in Week 10, they probably would have been able to do it. Probably would have been able to take the title there. They would have been able to get the 266 to 265 and edged them out. Houston Roughnecks were in last place at 158 points in the season. San Antonio Brahmas, because they are important this week, they were at 193. So the Battlehawks they're outscoring people by a pretty good clip. Arlington Renegades they're in third place with 247. So it goes 265 Birmingham, 260 St. Louis, 274 Arlington are the top three. What that means is that it makes it an easy average. 260 yards or 260 points. That's 26 points per game. That did drop in the second half of the season. Doesn't help that they lost AJ for a few games there and then had this abysmal offensive performance. This week, they were roughly 30 points per game, probably at week 5, I think. So that did drop a pretty significant amount there. Points against, like I said, the Battlehawks had 202 points against. That puts them at number 5. And that's a good thing to be at number 5. The San Antonio Brahmas only allowed 153 points, so that's a huge difference. So they're the best with. Okay, maybe I should do it like this because we don't care. You want your defense to be better. The Brahmas are in first place with only allowing 153 points per game. Or God, fuck me. I'm already bad at this. Okay, relax. Your neck hurts, Jacob. Get it together. San Antonio Brahmas, 153 total points. St. Louis Battlehawks, 202 total points allowed by the defense. Memphis Showboats, 290 points allowed. So the Battlehawks are right in the middle, but they are on the top half. That is them allowing 20.2 points per game. Okay, so that's total offense and a little bit of defense. Now, as far as passing goes, this is all lumped in with all quarterbacks played by the teams. It's not just going to be an AJ thing. We're going to lump Manny Wilkins in there with this as well. The Battlehawks, their completions, their 191 completions, that puts them in fourth place for completions. You'll never guess the team that threw the ball the most and had the most yards had the most completions. Arlington Renegades had 231 completions to the Battlehawks 191 completions. The Battlehawks, the 62.6 percent completion percentage puts them in third place. Renegades at 67.3% completion percentage, and the Brahmas at 63.9. So the Battlehawks are in third place to the Renegades and the Brahmas. DC Defenders, your guy Jordan Tamu, who everybody has jerseys of him still, 57.7% completion percentage, so he stunk this season. Did the total yards and everything like that. Average yard per completion. Battlehawks at 9.1 yards per completion. That puts them in seventh place. Did I already talk about this? I feel like I already talked about this. 9.1, that puts them in seventh place. Yeah, I already did talk about that. Passing touchdowns, Battlehawks had 16. They're in third place for that, too, behind the Renegades and the Stallions. Last place was the Houston Roughnecks with only 7 passing touchdowns. The longest pass, the 80-yard pass, I believe that was Hakeem Butler, and he held the title for about 3 hours until the Memphis Showboats had an 82-yard touchdown. So the Battlehawks are tied for second with the Birmingham Stallions for the longest pass. San Antonio Brahma's longest pass was only 52 yards. They're in last place. Interceptions thrown. AJ and Manny threw 7. Manny threw 3 in one game. If it wasn't for those, the Battlehawks would be in first place for interceptions. They would have the fewest interceptions. Instead, the Arlington Renegades, while throwing the ball the most, having the most completions, also threw the fewest interceptions, which is actually kind of impressive. They only threw 4. Memphis Showboats threw 12, and the Brahmas threw 8. So Manny Wilkins kind of inflated this number with his one really bad stretch of 4 throws where he had 3 interceptions. But all in all, the numbers don't lie. Battlehawks threw 7 interceptions this season. And very important, the number of times that quarterbacks were sacked. The Battlehawks got sacked 22 times. That puts them in fourth place. Arlington Renegades only got sacked 14 times. Brahmas 17, Defenders 21, and then the Battlehawks at 22. Memphis Showboats a resounding 39 sacks, 3.9, almost 4 sacks per game. So that's the passing offense. As far as the rushing offense goes. So we've seen 3 different. We've seen because Ja'Cory Pearson had a carry there, and AJ's had some carries too. But for the most part, it was Jacob Sailors, and then it probably went. Man, it would be weird to see, and we will actually probably be able to get to that. But then there was also the Mateo Durant had a really good game. And then Wayne Gallman. So those are the rushers that we're talking about here. Sailors, Gallman, Mateo Durant. The Battlehawks ran the ball 216 times. The team that ran the ball the most is the Birmingham Stallions at 265. The team that ran the ball the least is the Memphis Showboats at 175. So that puts the Battlehawks in 6th place. Below them is the Houston Roughnecks with 200 rushing attempts, and then the Arlington Renegades with 220 attempts. As far as the yardage goes, with the Battlehawks with their 977 rushing yards, we already talked about this when we talked about total offense. Average yards per attempt, the Battlehawks 4.5 yards per attempt. That puts them in 3rd place. Memphis Showboats 3.7 yards per attempt. In 1st place, the Birmingham Stallions with a whopping 5.1 yards per rush, which is truly disgusting. To be able to average a successful run is truly disgusting. On any down, you can expect that the Birmingham Stallions are going to have a successful rush. Any down that is not like behind schedule, because with a 1st and 10, a 5.1 yard carry, that's a successful run because it's get you over the halfway there. Rushing touchdowns. St. Louis Battlehawks had 14. That makes them tied for 2nd for the most rushing touchdowns. Michigan Panthers had 19. Memphis Showboats, who again, just a truly awful, terrible team, had 6. The Battlehawks did have the longest rush of the entire season, a 57-yard run. I believe that was maybe Mateo Durant was only 41, and 57 was Jake Saylor's. But we'll end up getting to that. But they had the longest rush at 57 yards, and Memphis Showboats lowest. Again, very fun to pick on the lowly Memphis Showboats. Memphis Lowboats, their longest rush was 26 yards. The Battlehawks averaged 97.7 yards per game, whereas the Birmingham Stallions averaged 134.7 yards, and Showboats sucked. Now, here's the thing that's kind of interesting here. Getting into the first downs and conversion. First downs as a whole, like the number of first downs that an offense gets as a whole, not totally important. But when you compare that with the Battlehawks' third down conversion rate, this is where it's kind of odd. So the Battlehawks, their total number of first downs was 157, which puts them in fifth place for the most first downs. The Birmingham Stallions had 207, and the Houston Roughnecks had 150. So there's a pretty big discrepancy there in the first half going down to the second half, where it's 207 to 157, 50 first down total, or 50 first downs total from 1 to 5, and then only 7 first downs total from 5 to 8. So the Battlehawks are at fifth place with the total number of first downs. Now, when you get to the third down, the third down conversion percentage, the Battlehawks are in last place with it. They were in last place in the entire UFL with their 34.2 third down conversion percentage, whereas the Arlington Renegades are at 48.8%. So the Battlehawks are absolutely middling with the number of first downs that they get, but they don't get those off of third downs, is my point. Like, they're getting their first downs on first and second down, and then they're truly abysmal when it gets to being that third down. So that's kind of why I bring that up as being important. I did bring up the fourth down conversion percentage before, where the Battlehawks are 66.7% on fourth down conversions, where they attempted it 18 times. That's important because the Birmingham Stallions converted fourth down 75% of the time, but they only attempted four fourth down conversions because they were never in that situation. So they were at 75%. You can kind of take that out of it, though, just because they had a small sample size. So if we wanted to take that out, Battlehawks are number 2. The Michigan Panthers had 10 fourth down conversions, and they were at 70%, whereas the Battlehawks 66.7. If you do care about that, if you don't, totally understandable. Offensive penalties. Love this. Love this. Battlehawks only committed 39 penalties on offense. That is the fewest in the entire UFL. 39 fewest offensive penalties. They ran like a well-oiled machine for the most part. The team that had the most was the Houston Roughnecks. 74 offensive penalties. Wonder why they suck so much ass. If you want to compare the Battlehawks to the other teams that made it to the playoffs, the Birmingham Stallions had 62 offensive penalties. Brahmas had 56, and the Michigan Panthers had 68. And as far as yards go, of course, the Battlehawks with the fewest penalties had the fewest yards, 358 penalty yards, whereas the Birmingham Stallions had the fourth most offensive penalties, had the most offensive penalty yards. So they had 62 penalties for 544 yards. So that's where we're at with that. Already talked about scoring. Do we want to talk about point afters? Not really. Okay. Now getting into the defense. Don't really care about the total number of tackles. If you do, the Battlehawks had 650. That puts them second for the most total tackles. They also had a shitload of plays run against them, too. Tackle for a loss yardage. This thing is kind of wonky because it has a hyphen in there. But the Battlehawks had 45 tackles for a loss for 172 yards. Looking at this, that puts them in the bottom half of the league for both of those things. Sacks, the Battlehawks had 19 sacks. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 teams that had more sacks than them, so that puts the Battlehawks at 5th place for sacks. Interceptions, the Battlehawks had 9 interceptions. That puts them tied for 2nd for most interceptions. Pass breakups, the Battlehawks had 42 pass breakups. That puts them at 3rd for the most pass breakups. Forced fumbles, the Battlehawks had 9 forced fumbles. That puts them tied for 2nd for the most forced fumbles. Fumble recoveries, the Battlehawks had 5. They're at last place for fumble recoveries. Safeties, the Battlehawks did not have any. Blocked kicks, though, Battlehawks had 4, which is huge. This Battlehawks special teams is elite. 4 block kicks. That puts them at 1st for most block kicks. Behind them is the DC Defenders at 2, then Memphis Showboats, then Panthers, then Brahmas. So 2 of the other playoff teams actually had block kicks, but by far and large, the Battlehawks had the most block kicks of any team in the UFL by a pretty large chunk. Talking about field goals. Field goals, we saw what happens when you have a shit kicker with Ryan Santoso. The Battlehawks they made 90.5 of their kicks. Andre Schmidt was 19 for 21, like I said before. Only team that was over them was the Memphis Showboats, who were 16 for 17. They only missed 1. The San Antonio Brahmas, because of their bad kicking thing, 66.7% of their field goals were made. They were 12 for 18. Ryan Santoso is on a whopping 0 for 5 streak over the past 3 games, I believe. Longest field goal, we know that Jake Bates bombed that 64-yarder in week 1, which sucks. Bombed 2 of them, actually, in week 1. Andre Schmidt's longest field goal is 61 yards. He's actually in 3rd place for longest field goal. Houston Roughnecks kicker, I don't know who it is off the top of my head, and you shouldn't blame me for that, had 62. Was his longest, so Andre Schmidt, 3rd place for longest field goal. Last place is Birmingham Stallions, 46 yards, but they are never in a situation where they have to kick a long field goal. And there has been no blocked field goals for the or none of Andre Schmidt's field goals have been blocked. So that is where we're at with the kicker. Hats off. Don't really care about these punting numbers because I'm more of an advanced punting guy. You can care about the total number of punts. I should say this. The total number of punts, that's the only one that really matters. What's his name? Sterling Hoffrichter has punted the ball 31 times. The offense has punted the ball 31 times, I should say. Or the offense has gotten into situations where they've had to punt the ball 31 times. That is the second fewest in the UFL. 31, the team that has punted the ball fewer times is the Arlington Renegades. The team that punted the ball the most is the Michigan Panthers. Other than that, I don't really care. Like the average punting yardage, because they're not open about these numbers, whether the average is after return or if that's just how long the punt went. If you're interested in punts, Puntalytics on Twitter. These guys are really smart about punting. They do advanced punting numbers. It's a lot of fun and just dumb bullshit. If you're looking for some football stuff to really get into some nitty-gritty shit during the summer, do a deep dive into the Puntalytics stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's just for the NFL, not for the UFL. But it'll kind of open your eyes to how punting numbers and how like ESPN reports them don't necessarily mean a lot, because if somebody hits a huge bomb like a punt just to get out of your own territory, that's one thing. But if that punt and maybe that punt bombs it from the 20 to the 30, huge mondo punt, but then that punt gets returned for 30 yards or something like that, then it still only counts as, what would that be, a 30 to it would only be like a 10-yard punt is what that would count as, whereas it's in reality the punt was actually really good, and then there's missed tackles and coffin corners and stuff. I highly encourage you to read Puntalytics stuff. So I don't really care about the average punting, but I will say when Sterling Hoffrichter does punt, of the 31 punts that he did, only 4 of them were touchbacks and 11 of them were hit inside the 20, and none of his punts were blocked. So that is a good thing. Now, as far as punt return yards, the Battlehawks had the second most punt return yards, 296 to the 302 that the Birmingham Stallions had. the Battlehawks had the best punt return because the Stallions only had 6 more punt return yards than the Battlehawks, but they also returned 4 more punts. Battlehawks returned 21 punts, and the Stallions returned 25. So we know that the special teams, again, is elite for this. Kick returns, yardage-wise, Battlehawks had 1,132 kick return yards. That is the third fewest, but they also had the third fewest number of 1,132 kick return yards is the third most, where they had the third fewest number of actual kick returns. So take for that what you will. They had the third longest kick return at 60 yards. I should say they also, the Battlehawks had the second longest punt return at 41 yards. And I believe that is everything I wanted to talk to you about as far as individual, or not individual, but the entire team. Okay, as far as team stats and how they compare. Now getting into actual individual player stuff. A.J. McCarron, in 9 games played, he had 255 throws, 164 catches. I should say this. Of his 255 throws, 164 of them were completed. That gives him a 64.3% completion percentage. Manny Wilkins played in 3 games, really just 2 total ones, and then like 2 drives against DC that one game. But Manny Wilkins had a 54% completion percentage, truly abysmal. A.J. McCarron, 1,582 passing yards, 9.6 per completion. He had... Accidentally did the thing the wrong way. He had 15 passing touchdowns, and he threw 4 interceptions. He got sacked 18 times. He averaged 175.8 yards per game throwing the ball. Rushing's here. Here's where we go with the rushing. Okay. Jacob Sailors had 94 carries, 461 yards, averaged 4.9 yards per carry. I love that. Again, the Birmingham Stallions were averaging 5.1 yards per attempt or per carry. Jake Sailors is just below that with 4.9 yards per carry. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. Again, his longest one is 57 yards. He had 474 yards of positive and 13 negative yards. He averaged 51.2 yards per game. Number 2 leading rusher, running back, I should say. Wayne Gallman, 166 total yards this season on 48 carries. And again, both of these guys only played 2 games because remember at the beginning of the season, Jake Sailors wasn't in the first game. Wayne Gallman wasn't in the second game. But Wayne Gallman, 166 yards on 48 carries, 3.5 yards per carry is what that averages out to be. He had 4 total touchdowns. His longest run was 17 yards, which came in the last game. He had 181 positive yards and 15 negative yards. He averaged 18.4 yards per game, which is, I mean, Jake Sailors is the obvious RB1. Then Mateo Durant, for the 3 games that he played, he had 134 yards on 22 carries, 6.1 yards per carry. I miss a Mateo Durant. I think it was his foot that got hurt. So that is the running backs. In case you were wondering, A.J. McCarron had 87 rushing yards on 23 carries, 90 yards positive, 3 yards negative. His long was 23 yards. Okay. Receiving. Hakeem Butler, the leading receiver, I believe, in the UFL. We will find that out in a second. Hakeem Butler, 652 yards on 45 catches, averages 14.5 yards per catch. Love that. 5 touchdowns. He's got targeted 67 times. So 67. Let's see if I can pull my calculator out right now and get this number. So he had 45 catches on 67 targets. He caught 67% of the balls that were thrown his way. So that's good for him. His long was 80 yards. He averages 65.2 yards per game. Again, that's taken a big downturn in the last 2 games where he's only had 4 catches total. Darius Shepard, the second leading receiver on this team. He had 29 catches on 40 targets, which is 29 divided by 40. He's caught 72% of the balls thrown his way. So 29 catches, 240 yards, averages 8.3 yards per catch. His long is 32. He averages 26.7 yards per game. Ja'Cour Pearson, who has only played 6 games, has had 26 catches on 36 throws. 26 divided by 36 is 72.2 again. So that's good, catching over 70% of the balls. 26 catches, 217 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, Darius Shepard has not had a touchdown yet. Ja'Cour Pearson averages 36.2 yards per game. Marcel Aitman has only had 17 catches. He really just had 1 good game, I believe, and that was like week 2 or 3 or something like that. 17 catches on 29 throws. Don't want to do the math for that because it's not really important because he's clearly not a reliable piece of this offense. But he has had 3 touchdowns. 17 catches, 208 yards, 12.2 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns, as long as 53 again came in one game. Stephen Mitchell, the guy that I unfortunately lashed myself to, has 12 catches on 24 targets. Don't have to be a mathematician to do that. He's only caught 50% of the balls, 124 yards, 10.3. He's had 2 touchdowns. His long was 40. Jake Sutherland, a guy that is criminally underused for this lone reason. 10 catches on 10 targets, man. Get Jake Sutherland. I've been saying it, I guess, for 2 years now, and it's just not going to happen. But Jake Sutherland can win you games. 10 catches on 10 targets, perfect 100% completion, 97 yards. He's had 2 touchdowns. And that is where we are going to end with that. You know what? No, Blake Jackson, again. Blake Jackson and Stephen Mitchell is a Spider-Man meme. They're just standing there pointing at each other. Blake Jackson, except no, I guess Stephen Mitchell, the ball doesn't get fumbled or turned into an interception when the ball's thrown to him. Blake Jackson, 7 catches on 14 targets. Again, another 50%. He's only had 20 yards. He averages 2 yards per game and about a turnover per game, too. Okay, that's the receivers. On defense, the one thing that I will say, and I'll say a couple things. Willie Harvey, I believe in the UFL, he has the most tackles. He's got 78 tackles. He's got 9 tackles for a loss for 51 yards. He's had 4 sacks for 34 yards. As far as sacks go for this team, Pita Tamoipenu, 5 sacks for 45 yards. Travis Feeney, 5 sacks for 28 yards. Willie Harvey, again, 4 for 34. Carson Wells, 2 for 12. Chris Garrett, 1 for 8. TJ Pesafea had 1 sack. Antoine Jackson and Callahan O'Reilly each had half a sack. And those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that have had sacks on this team. Interceptions, Cameron Kelly, 3 interceptions. Quinterio Cole, 2. Mike Rose, 2. Our white linebacker with 2 interceptions is good. Brennan Sebastian, who is now on the IR, has 1 interception. Lavert Hill has 1 interception. PBUs, Willie Harvey has had 6 pass breakups. Your linebacker has more pass breakups than any DB. Cam Kelly has 5 pass breakups. Chris Payton-Jones, 5. Brandon Sebastian, 4. Quinterio Cole, 4. Drayvon Askew-Henry with 4. Tim Harris with 4. Mike Rose with 3. Lavert Hill with 3. And then Ben DeLuca, Carson Wells, and Mike Hampton all have 1. That's where we're at that. Forced fumbles. Willie Harvey has 2 forced fumbles. Chris Garrett has 2 forced fumbles. Austin Falio, Quinterio Cole, Mike Rose, Chris Payton-Jones, and Pita Tamoipenu all have 1 forced fumble. TJ Pesafea, Jerome Cap, Willie Harvey, Drayvon Askew-Henry, and Cam Kelly all have 1 fumble recovery each. Nobody has any safeties. Chris Garrett with 2 blocked kicks. The guy's an animal. That guy hates punts. If you punt, you better look out for Chris Garrett because he's going to kill you. Kamari Averett has a blocked kick from last week, and Nico Bolden, number 20, has a blocked kick, blocked punt. That was against the DC Defenders. So that is where we are at with that. Compare that to the rest of the league. Don't want to do the passing thing. I guess I should mention some passing thing. Luis Perez has the most passing yards, but we kind of already covered that with talking about total offense, so I'm not really going to rehash that. As far as rushing goes, so the conditional thing that I did on this is that it's players with over 50 rushing attempts. That way we get guys who actually ran the ball. And the startling thing with that is that Adrian Martinez, the Birmingham Stallions bona fide QB1, has 54 rushing attempts for 528 yards averages 9.8 yards per carry, which is truly just disgusting. So he's the leading rusher in all of the UFL. The leading running back in all of the UFL, though, is Jake Sailors. Like I said, he's got the 94 carries for 461 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. The guy that comes in behind him is the Panthers running back at 4.5 yards per carry. Adrian Martinez has 3 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. Jake Sailors has 5. Is there any? Yeah, Ricky Person, the Stallions leading running back, has 6 rushing touchdowns. Who has the longest run? Jake Sailors does have the longest run with 57. Yeah, that's where we're going to leave with that as far as the rushing goes. Let's see, what's his name is Wayne Gallman is not in the top 10. Wayne Gallman is not in the top 10 for rushing, which I guess makes sense. He wasn't overwhelmingly successful. Hakeem Butler, going on to receivers. He is the only Battlehawk in the top 10 receivers in the UFL. He has 652 yards. That is almost 40. It's 38 yards more than the John Trey Kirkland, the Brahma's leading receiver. What's his name? What the hell? Where did my numbers just go? Hakeem Butler has 45 catches. John Trey Kirkland has 56. So that's where we're at with that. Don't want to do averages because I didn't do a conditional thing. Hakeem Butler has the most receiving yards, and he is tied for second in most receiving touchdowns. Sal Cannella, the tight end for the Arlington Renegades, has the most touchdowns at 6. J.P. Patelin from the Renegades, Vinny Papale from the Showboats, Dawood Davis from the Showboats, and Hakeem Butler are all tied with 5 receiving touchdowns. Who has the most targets? John Trey Kirkland by a long shot. John Trey Kirkland has 87 targets, and Hakeem Butler is in 6th place for the most receiving or most targets in the UFL with 67. The longest catch, we already talked about this, Dawood Davis with 82, Kevin Austin with the Birmingham Stallions with an 80-yarder, Hakeem Butler with an 80-yarder, and Marcel Aitman is 8th with the 53-yarder. Yards per game, Hakeem Butler is number 1 with 65.2. John Trey Kirkland just behind him with 61.4 yards per game. And then that is the only ones that we really care about there. So that's the receivers. As far as defense goes, yes, I was right. So Willie Harvey does have the most tackles in the UFL. He's got 78. Number 2 and 3 are both Brahmas. There's the Jordan Mosley and the Tavante Beckett have 75 and 72 tackles to their names. As far as interceptions go, there is a 4-way tie for first. It is A.J. Thomas from the Stallions, Markel Roby from the Roughnecks, Kai Nakua from the Panthers, and Cameron Kelly from the Battlehawks all have 3 interceptions. Most pass breakups, Willie Harvey is number 9 in the UFL with his 6. Ajene Harris from the Renegades has 8, and Markel Roby from the Roughnecks has 8. There's nobody on the Brahmas in that top 10. Did interceptions, forced fumbles. Willie Harvey and Chris Garrett are tied for first with, let's see, there's an 9-way tie for first, with 2 forced fumbles. Willie Harvey and Chris Garrett are up there with that. Fumble recoveries, there is not the most fumble recoveries by a person is 2, and then there's probably about a 20-person tie for second with 1. We did not have any safeties, so Battlehawks are not there at all either. Special teams, already talked about that. Scoring, Jake Sailors has the most touchdowns in the UFL. He has 8 touchdowns. That's, again, the most in the UFL. That's 54 points by him. Again, obviously the most in the UFL. Sal Cannella, that tight end from the Renegades, is number 2 with 46 touchdowns. John Levitt, the running back that we did not see last week for the San Antonio Brahmas, has 6 rushing touchdowns for 40 points. Let's see. I believe that's all we really care about there. And then all-purpose yards. Total all-purpose yards. Unfortunately, Darius Shepard did get edged out from the all-purpose yards. probably because he missed time from being the punt returner and kick returner for a couple games there. Darius Shepard has 1,313 all-purpose yards. Chris Rowland, the defender's returner, has 1,657 total all-purpose yards. Let's see, punt return yards. Yeah, Darius Shepard had the third most punt return yards at 205, and he had the fourth most kick return yards at 868. The top four for kick return yards was that Chris Rowland, Jawan Mingo from the Renegades, Titus Swen from the Showboats, and then it is Darius Shepard. And then number 5 is Gary Jennings, former Battlehawk, is at number 5 with 504 kick return yards. So if we're talking average per game, Darius Shepard is averaging 145.9 all-purpose yards per game, which puts him in third place to Puka Williams and Chris Rowland. I think that is all that we're going to cover. I think we made it. That is kind of how the Battlehawks compared to every other team in the UFL. For the most part, they had players in the top 10. For the most part, they were in the top 10 for running backs and receivers and all that stuff. Obviously, the third down conversion thing is a huge bane. That really, really sucks. That they're in last place on third down conversion on offense. That's not good. Did I talk about? I wonder did they give me stats for defense for conversions? I don't think I covered this. The Battlehawks defense has allowed, like I said, 40.8% of the third downs. That puts them right in the middle. Like I said, that was kind of average. 40.8% of third downs get converted against this defense. That puts them at number 5. Number 1 is, the team. Okay, that actually puts them at number 4. They allow the fourth fewest. They have the fourth smallest third down completion percentage. The Brahmas, which we saw last week, and last week probably helped them out get this number so low. They only allow 31.9% of the third downs. So just expect for these things to come into play in this playoff game. But yeah, the Battlehawks 40.8%, Brahmas 31.9%, and then the Memphis Showboats allowed 49.5% of third downs to be completed, which is almost 50%, which is disgusting. This defense allowed 50% of the fourth downs to be completed against them. They were 8 for 16 on stopping those. Michigan Panthers stopped 5 for 14, which is 35%, and then the Houston Roughnecks, they were 71% of those got completed. So yeah, I felt like that. Just wanted to make sure I talk on that. If I'm going to talk about how bad the offense is on third downs, got to talk about how incredibly mediocre this defense is on third downs. But they're getting a lot of sacks. They got the most pass breakups, and Willie Harvey flies around the field. So those are all good things to take care of or to think about. So that's where we're at. Thank you guys for watching this Tuesday episode of Solid. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Go Birds, go Iron Birds, cause the law. If you say anything to anybody in public anywhere, they're going to be able to like translate that to be like, oh, that person just likes the Battlehawks. Like I went to the store earlier and I checked out. And the gal asked me, she said, you want to donate your change to the charity? I can't remember which one it was. I said no, because I'm always going to say no to that. And hearing that, she was probably like, oh, this guy just likes the Battlehawks. Okay, so that's cool. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will be back with you tomorrow. Have not decided what I'm going to do for that, but we will be back tomorrow to talk about something else with the Battlehawks, and I'll figure out what that is and surprise you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.